Good afternoon. It's Tom from GreenShortz, and I wanted to do a quick live stream on a project I'm working on, which is this cob oven here behind me. I've been wanting to make one of these cob bread ovens for a long time, and I've been saving all of this scrap wood from my house construction project, all the untreated wood, to use as fuel for the stove. So I needed to get the stove built so I can get rid of all this piles of all the pile of lumber here in my backyard, which you can kind of get a sense for down there. But I'm working on a DIY video on this stove build, but I thought you might enjoy joining me in the process a little bit. And I'm putting on the final coat of cob. I got a first coat on. You can see that's kind of the pockmark coat there. Got the finished coat going on this part of the stove. And I'm actually mixing up some more cob right now, and so I thought I'd let you take a look at that process. Then I'm going to set the camera down as I finish this side of the stove and let you kind of see how that happens live. Alright, so walk over here with me around to the cob I've got here, and I'm just starting to add the grass to it. I've mixed the clay and the sand together. It's a little wet, so I'm adding some sand, and I've got this sand actually out of the creek bed, the culvert across the street, so it's a little browner, dirtier than sand you would buy in the store, but it was free. Cob doesn't care. Alright, so I'm going to stomp some cob here. You can tell it's still pretty wet. Just using some stemmy sort of weeds that I chopped from the side yard that's still wild. And that acts as the binder. Just roll this up. It's a little hard to do with one hand. I'm holding the camera. I had the neighbor kids and my son help me mix up the first batch of cob, which you'll see in the video. It's a lot of fun to include them in that process. Got permission first, of course. Guten Abend. Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. See, we were evening in Germany. I saw that comment come in from Deutschland. It's the beauty of a material like this is that it's available everywhere. Germany has sand and clay and grass, so you can make cob there as well. Actually, one thought I had when I had the kids make that first batch of cob is just how strong this stuff is. I was out the next day starting the first coat on the stove, or the oven, and it was hard to pull the stuff apart. into handfuls that I could put into a bucket to bring over to where I'm building the oven. Once you get that grass, those stems worked into the cob, haha. I see you live in an apartment, so you could make a little cob grill for your balcony if you have one. If you don't have a balcony, they probably wouldn't like that in the inside the apartment building. If you're watching this later, after we're live here, the comments aren't visible, so that might not have made sense. But one of the viewers here was saying that they live in an apartment actually in Germany and can't go fetch sand on their own. But maybe you have a friend or relative that has a yard that they would let you build an oven in, or I've just found out my neighbor actually knows. They have a balcony. Yes. All right, you have a balcony. It's maybe a small one, a small bread oven. This is obviously bigger than you would have on a balcony, but you could probably do something on a smaller scale. One of the things I'm doing with this is actually an old shower curtain liner. A canvas type, not plastic, so it's pretty durable, but that lets me turn the cob over into this roll like a burrito. Then I stomp that back down again. That just helps with the mixture. We'll get to the oven here soon. I want to mix this just a little bit more. One thing I do is dig my heels in. It really helps push the material down. That's been an advantage in mixing this up. So let's add a little more grass. Now I'm adding this stuff green. Most of the recipes call for straw or dry grass. So this may actually sprout. I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I find kind of adding it like this in a small batch like that helps to mix it in better versus just a big clump that takes a while to work its way into the cob. Once I kind of get it down in like this, embed it a little bit, I'll turn it again in the other direction. I know this is shaky with me holding the phone as I talk. When I've got it pulled back like this, I like to kind of stomp on it from the outside just to kind of lock it into that shape. Sometimes it wants to roll back down when I release the liner like that. I can still see areas of light and dark in this. The red clay and the dark sand. So it's not quite fully mixed just yet. I've heard in a couple of different videos on making this that letting it sit for 24 hours is also a good thing to let everything kind of settle in the mixture set a little bit. You certainly don't, it doesn't get too dry to work with in that amount of time, but what I would do is kind of cover it up with the canvas like this in all areas. And then let it sit for the night like that. Well, not with that showing, but you get the point. But since I want to show you how it goes on the stove, I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to just put it on right away. Alright, I think this is getting pretty close to being ready. I'm not seeing as much of the modeling like here, where you can see that it's still some sand, some darker sand there. But this area is definitely getting mixed up well. You can just see how strong this stuff is. It's really hard for me to pull that out. Let me stomp that back in. I didn't want to pull that out too much. Alright, let's put some on the stove. I'm actually going to walk over here to this area. Boots, yes. Although what works really well, I saw your comment about boots being a good way to churn up the mixture. I've always seen people doing it with bare feet. And I think the reason is that you can really work your heels down in like that. That seems to work really well for me. Kind of comes between your toes. It's therapeutic this way too. They wouldn't get that if you had boots on. I suppose it would work, but might not be quite as fun. Alright, I want my batteries. Boots stick in the mud, that's right. Thanks, Stephen, for making that point. Alright, I flipped the camera around here. I'm going to set you down on a little ledge I had prepared for the camera. And start grabbing some cob, putting it on this side of the stove. You can kind of see the difference between the two layers here. Got about a 3-inch layer underneath, and I really kind of put my fingers into that to kind of pock mark it up. And I did that a couple days ago. Kept it covered to keep the moisture up a little bit, but now I want to put that second layer on, and the pock marks really help the second layer bind to the first layer. I don't want that to fully dry out before that happens, just because I don't want this two separate layers in the stove. I want it as one large thermal mass. So I'm adding this second layer on top of that in pretty short order. Alright, let me grab some cob. Got a big hunk like this. I'm going to just start here at the bottom and just slam that on. Going for a smooth finish here, I need to get about a 4.5 to 5 inch layer on this to get it to the right thickness. There's one way that this particular type of oven is different than, say, a pizza oven, is that we want this to have, or a rocket stove, we want this to have thermal, we want this to be a heat sink. You put the fire in, you let the fire heat up the oven, you pull the fire out, and then you put your baking things in. And then the residual heat of the oven is what bakes the bread. Let me grab some more. Keeping an eye on the battery here. Should have charged up the phone all the way before I started this. So this looks like I probably had a little too much grass in this mixture, but I will come back and cover this up with a smooth coat of that doesn't have the grass showing. I don't want the grass showing on the outside. So this is just a little slice of this video. I've been filming this whole process and with my good camera, and we'll put out most likely next week a start to finish video on this stove. And then a couple weeks later I'll be taking out the sand lining that's inside. Right now there's a mound of sand, an igloo of sand underneath this mud that's going to be forming the cavity of the inside of the stove. So you got to let it dry for a couple weeks before it's ready to open that up. Got some more cob coming over here. I like to grab this in big chunks like this because it keeps the grass that's worked into the cob kind of intertwined. We don't want to lose that structural element. If I've got grass that's too close to the surface like this, I'll just use my thumb to kind of push it down in, and I'll work in that area later. Let's see, how's that battery doing? I don't see it. So this is actually the third batch of cob that I've made for this stove, about the same size as that I had on the shower liner. This is the third one about that size to get to this. The first batch was enough to get about a 2-inch to 3-inch layer on the whole sand dome, and then it's taken two batches to get it covered to the point that it is now. And I think with what I have on the liner, I'll be able to finish the whole stove. Or I call it a stove, it's actually an oven. I do a lot of rocket stove videos, so that's always, the idea of the word stove is always fresh on the brain. When I did that layer that was underneath, I would do it more like this on as I formed the cob in. That really helped kind of keep that pockmark area like this to be able to join. 10% battery left, so let me get this as close as I can, or at least for what I wanted y'all to see today. So let's get a finished coat on that. you get these little divisions here as I start to add this other layer on. I'll just kind of smooth those over with my fingers, just kind of make them disappear. Any grass I see on the surface there, I'll push down my thumb and just smooth those in. I always keep a bucket of water around because my hands are like this and I gotta touch the camera, and so I rinse them off before I do that. So this is sort of the level of finish that I would have on the whole surface of this side and the rest of the stove. And you can see the full process in the video that will be coming out next week. So thanks for watching, those of you who jumped on the live stream here, and I appreciate you taking a look. And I'm probably doing more of these live streams just because the process is fun for me, and I think some of the liveness gets lost when you edit a video. So letting you all kind of participate, join in. I'll in times have a moderator around so we can watch for all the comments and hear questions that you have so I can answer them specifically. And I'm still learning in this process as well. This has been a fun thing for me and a journey for me in learning how I can live more sustainably. And that's the goal of my channel, is to help you see green so you can be green. And I think also that gives us an opportunity to save green as well. So we can save money by... Hey Pat, sorry you were late. No problem. You're never late, never too early, never too late. You can always watch the video coming out next week. Will be a start to finish on this bread oven, this cob bread oven. But I'd let y'all take a little look at how the process was happening here today. So, if you do want to see that video, let me grab the camera here real quick with my muddy hands. Make sure that you subscribe and click the bell. When you click the bell, that lets you get notified when I'm doing a new video. So as always, thanks for watching. You got here, take a look at the front of the stove here. I added some tile I had laying around just to the front edge here to kind of give it a little decorative quality. Of course, this is the door that will be custom fit to this stove. Alright, so stay tuned for the rest of this video and all the details that go into making this cob bread oven. As always, our mission here at Green Shorts is to help you see green so you can be green, and save a little green by doing it yourself. Thanks for watching. Please like and share, and we'll see you here next Friday for a DIY video.